This video is about some of the practical halachik differences between Orthodox and Conservative Judaism. If you want to look at the origins of the movements, I have other videos about that. You can look up Reform, Orthodox under Jew, JEWU, or if you want to know some of the legal basis for the differences, but I just want to go in this video about some of the differences. First of all, in terms of divorce, the Orthodox and Conservative movements require a get, a Jewish divorce, after a civil divorce. The Reform and Reconstructionists don't require that. One of the differences is, though, that if a divorce is not obtainable, that is, the husband won't participate, the Conservative movement has a solution called hafkat kedushin, which is nullification of the betrothal, which was a device employed in the Talmud, and the Orthodox do not have any device, so the woman remains anchored, called agunah, for the rest of her life. In addition, the Conservative movement about a cohen, the status of a cohen, which doesn't have much significance today, since the temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago, we allow a cohen to marry a convert, or the Orthodox do not. In terms of women, the Conservative movement allows women, now there are different rabbis have different views. Some say that women have to adopt all time-bound commandments. Others just allow women to do these things, but to lead services, to be witnesses on documents, to wear tefillin and talis, to read from the Torah, to count in a minyan. Not all conservative rabbis, but many, and it's growing. The Orthodox generally do not, although there are some experimental Orthodox synagogues where women do some of these things, sometimes only with women present, but that's one of the big differences between the movements. The Conservative movement allows people to drive to the synagogue. Now, in the real world in Orthodoxy, some do, and they park a block away, but the Conservative movement actually has a tshuva, a rabbinic decision, which permits it. Basically, preference of praying in community versus not praying in community, but having to pray at home if you enforce the rule about not being able to drive to the synagogue. In terms of kashrut, the Conservative movement allows people to eat kosher food, that is, like fish, in a non-kosher restaurant. There's a long decision about why, in terms of the cooking and the plates, but in Orthodoxy, no rabbi would permit the eating of hot food in a non-kosher restaurant. There are some specific foods that we consider kosher, the Orthodox do not, including a cheese with rennet in it, that is an animal byproduct, but we believe it's been so changed in the chemical process that it no longer represents what it originally did, which is based on a Rashi from 1,000 years ago. We also permit sturgeon and swordfish, whereas the Orthodox in general do not. We permit the drinking of any wine except when you're making kiddush. The Orthodox do not. In terms of music in the synagogue, we do have a tshuva allowing organ and other music in the synagogue. Of course, they played music on Shabbat. They're talking about on Shabbat and holidays. They did that in the ancient temple. The Orthodox do not permit that. Now, not all conservative synagogues use this, and they're permitted to, of course, not take these permissions, but they are permitted by the conservative movement. In Jewish law, there's a notion of heter, which is something's permitted. Now, you can be makil on it, lenient, or you can be machmir, stringent, but it still can be kosher. For example, some of the Jewish summer camps under the conservative auspices serve cheese without rennet, that is, rabbinically supervised cheese. Even though it may be kosher for the conservative movement, they want to appeal to a standard where everybody is comfortable eating there, even Orthodox Jews. On the issue of gays, the conservative movement now allows openly admitted homosexuals to be admitted to the rabbinical school, for rabbis to officiate at gay commitment ceremonies, etc. So those are some of the key differences halachically between the Orthodox conservative movements. Reform's a whole different story, and Reconstructionists, because they don't really have halakha. They don't believe in the notion of commandment in that regard. And so the rabbis have wide discretion in pretty much doing whatever they wish. Anyway, the Orthodox and conservative movements are unified on many aspects too, both forbidding rabbis to officiate in their marriage, requiring, for example, in conversion, circumcision, ritual circumcision if the person's already circumcised, immersion in the mikveh, the basic rules of kashrut, basic rules of shabbat. Another halakhic difference on Shabbat is the conservative movement allows the use of electricity for things that are otherwise permitted, but not for things that are otherwise forbidden, like ironing and cooking And Orthodoxy would not permit the use of electricity by opening a light. Sometimes they allow timers, but among certain segments of the Orthodox community now, the extremists, they don't even allow that in certain communities, like my relatives in Bratslav relatives in Israel. Okay, I hope that helps clarify some of the differences. There are many more, but just wanted to give you an introduction to it.